of all the real estate agents I've met, I'm most excited about him. I just endorse him without question. He's one of the finest real estate agents, one of the most knowledgeable real estate brokers I've ever met, and I'm humbled that he's here today. And Jason Smith.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. As Vince said, we had some success in this business, and I'm going to share some basic nuggets. One of the biggest things that I've seen over time is people keep migrating to shiny objects. And if you do the fundamentals and you do the basics and you just do it consistently with a lot of action, that's all you really need to do. There's nothing profound in this business. We're going to talk about that today. So anyways, before I get started, who knows what the AF means in Realty AF?
Can't say it out loud.
I think some of you guys that were at the rooftop bar were tipsy AF. So if you didn't know, now you do. So anyways, so we had a little technical difficulty this morning, so bear with us with the different, we had to use an iPad here today, but anyways, so today we're gonna get kind of real and raw. We're gonna talk about things that people don't like to talk about. We're gonna talk about things that you probably don't want to hear, but you need to hear. We're gonna talk about things that you really need to be doing today, and you need to start now. You guys are everybody here obviously is a part of LPT, and you guys have, I think some of you have an idea, but some of you probably don't have an idea of the position you're in with the resources that you have, and you just need to learn how to connect those dots. And we're going to talk about that today. So, just a little quote that's important to me. Again, obviously this is a little jacked up, but so one of my personal coaches, his name is James Childress, life coach, both for Sarah and I, and very influential on me and her from a life perspective, mentally, physically, and health, or whatever. So I just want to share a little thing from him. It just takes one coach. The main problem is people keep hiring trainers or system pushers. Coaching is in-depth and personal. If they do not know your pain points or your children's names, they are a trainer and a systems pusher. Stop spending money to a system that isn't tailored specifically to you and your needs. What's that mean? So everybody is in a different position in this room. Either you're new, you've been doing this a while, maybe you've been, a guy like Vince has been doing it for about as long as I've been born, or how old I am, excuse me. So, he's obviously what he needs, the conversations him and I have, and a conversation what Ross may have are much different. So, our perspective is, where are you at? What's your pain points? I want to meet you where you're at. So that's very important. And anybody, whether it's myself or anybody you talk to in this business, that's very important. There's a lot of stuff and crap out there you can buy, and snake oil. And I'll give you an example. My wife and I were driving down the road because I see a lot of these things. Hey, buy this blueprint for real estate. Can I show you how to do it all? So I said to her, I go, hey, if we go to Home Depot right now and I buy you a blueprint to build a house, could you build a house? And she said, F no. Exactly, I said, right? You obviously need to know how to read the blueprint. You need to know all the steps to take, the direction not to go. Obviously, you got to have the ability to actually swing a hammer and do the whole thing too, right? So obviously, it's more in depth than that. So today, there we go. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So I think the title of our event today was how to be the big fish in your market. So what I call branding is mind share, creating mind share. Branding is a lot of different things. It's who you are as a person, what your core values are, what you represent, how you present yourself, and everything that you do in your business creates and defines that brand, right? And by creating mind share in this industry, the idea of that obviously is to be selectable, which we're going to talk about. And of course, we're going to get truthful about that. So how to be selectable. You know, the basic fundamentals of how to be selectable and how to create a brand and how to just do the basics. Major emphasis on mindset. If you don't have the mindset, it doesn't matter. You can know everything. You can have all the resources, all the tools. If your mind's not right, it's not going to matter. You're just going to get in your own way. So we're going to talk about some of that. The rule of 100. Who knows what the rule of 100 is? Ross, what's the rule of 100? Any idea?
Do it 100 times.
All right, we're going to get to that. Most importantly, be yourself. I've been through massive transitions to creating our brand over time, from basics to having coaches, and there's been times where I've lost my identity through that process. And people know that. You know, Vince, you know, he wears a suit and tie every day. He's clean shaven, he wears loafers. If I saw him dressed like me, I'd be like, what the hell's going on, Vince? Why are you trying to be like me? Right? He's him. He's Vince. One of a kind, right? Just like everybody should be. So just because somebody else is doing something doesn't mean you should be doing it. Whoever you are, and your identity and your actions need to match. And if they don't, people will recognize that and they'll call bullshit on that. Okay? All right, so we're going to jump in here. So one of the most profound things that I learned early on in my business, and I didn't know a damn thing at the time. I was a redneck, born and raised in Evans Mills, New York. There's about 2 bars, a local convenience store. That's it. If I go there today, the same people I grew up with are at the bar still. Small town. I come from blue-collar trades. I used to work highway construction. That's what I did. I got hit by a car, working construction. There's my scars. My dad worked highway construction. What I did know is how to work hard. But obviously, I didn't have any idea how to build a real estate business, right? So, of course, like going to these events, I was at an event like this, and there's a speaker, and this gentleman's still in business today. I'll reference his name soon. So, what's synonymous about these 2 people up here? You're not supposed to know that. All right, let's pretend one is and one is. Obviously, you knew who George Washington is, right? Everybody knows who that is. Okay, you both know they're both presidents. Who is the other guy? Any idea? If you're a history buff, don't mention it. I don't want you to mention it because most of you don't, right? Don't ruin the example on me. They're both presidents, right? Okay. Well, obviously you recognize one, you don't the other, unless you're a history dude or gal, right? So what's my point?
Recognition, getting branded.
Right. So, obviously, some of you guys knew who the other guy was. William Henry Harrison. He was the 9th president. If you read, I think he had the shortest serving president, right? So they're both very important people. Just like everybody in this room is a real estate agent, right? How would I know that? Other than the fact that you're here. Some of you have name tags on, some of you have LPT shirts on, some of you don't, right? If I didn't know you through the group that I'm in, how would I know that you're in real estate? How would I know to have the conversation with you?
Facebook.
Right, but how would I even meet you to know that you're charismatic?
You saw her billboard.
Maybe. Sorry, guys. Where's Bill at? Yeah, good enough. So the point is obviously one's George Washington, and the other one's whomever he was, William Henry Harrison, right? So both very important people. So just like all of you, you're all realtors. But you need to be a George Washington. Does that make sense? So what do I mean by that?
You need to
So George, to this day, he's the first president of the United States. He's actually almost still one of the most branded people ever. He's on the quarter. He's on the dollar bill. The guy's been dead for however long, and he's still got a better brand than anybody in this room. Right? So what I learned, so this was what was presented to me. So the gentleman's still in real estate. His name's John Farrell. Vince knows probably, well, maybe Ellie doesn't, but I know Vince knows him. He still does like 140 transactions by himself a year, and he's 74 or 5 years old, I think. And he was at a regional exit convention just like this, and there was a panel, and I was new, and trying to soak up what I could soak up. And some people had their shtick on what you should do and not do. And he had two pictures. One was George Washington, and one was this other guy. And I think you guys were smarter than the group of people in the room because the other people didn't know who the other guy was. So he said, hey, both prominent people, but you need to be a George Washington. So I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Meaning you need to put your face and you need to do things all the time, everywhere, right? So, at that time I didn't know how to create call to actions. I didn't know how to do a lot of those things. I was like, okay, well, I have a big enough ego and I think I look okay. I can put my face everywhere, right? So I'm going to buy all these signs, I'm going to do all these things. And at that time, social media, Facebook was kind of just coming out, really, So that's what I did. I'm going to be a George Washington. So if you're being a George Washington, you could be selectable, right? So I referenced this the other day to a couple of people, and I recognized it walking in a convenience store. You walk into a convenience store, I don't know whoever drinks energy drinks in here, I do. You shouldn't, but I do. Right? If you go to a 7-Eleven and there's a whole thing of energy drinks, right? They're all the same, but they look different, right? If you read the ingredients, they're all the same. Some of them have a little more caffeine, the others, sugar, non-sugar, or whatever, right? Well, one are you going to pick?
The one that tastes better. The one with more caffeine.
Well, you got to know that first, right? See, so that's my point. So the point of it is, like, everybody in this room has some special ingredients. But why am I picking you off the shelf? Put yourself right now, envision this. You're in 7-Eleven, you guys we're going and buying a realtor off a 7-Eleven shelf. Right? So who knows like Jake Paul? Obviously, he's a famous YouTube guy. Paul Logan or whatever. Yeah, whatever the hell his name is. Yeah. Yes, right? So you remember that, right? He's somebody that created a brand. So like right now, one might say, hey, I'm going to get that because it's a new brand in town. Right? Monster's kind of like old school. You got whatever. There's a gazillion. Obviously, Red Bull is one of the most common ones, right? So like, who are you picking? And as you know, oftentimes you're going to pick the one that looks the best, right? The product doesn't actually even have to be good. It has to be selectable. So I had this epiphany. This is I'm moving forward in my career a little bit. So I was actually talking to a mentor of mine. He's a mortgage guy and dear friend of mine. And I was just talking to him. I was like, I just had this epiphany. He's like, yeah, what's that? I go, I'm probably not the best realtor. There's plenty of other realtors a lot better than me, like the ones that I define as like the realtor. Code ethics and all these things, and like an alley. I'm not going any of that stuff. You can go all that stuff. I'm not going. So there's a lot of realtors that are better than me. However, I'm a better marketer. He said, well, what do you mean by that? I go, I don't even have to be good. I have to be selectable. But what if I was good too? Which of course I had some skills, right? I mean, I wasn't Ellie in terms of realtor stuff, But, my wife's a better realtor. But I was a better marketer. I recognized that I had to be selectable. So, what action steps are you guys taking in your business to be selectable? Like right now, if I didn't know any of you guys, I walked in this room and you're all realtors, supposedly, right? Why would I choose you? How would I know to choose you? Could work, I guess. Just want you to think about that. What are you doing every day to be selectable?
Posting.
What's that?
Posting.
Sure. What are you posting?
Valuable real estate information and tips. And personal stuff.
Ross, what are you posting? So Ross gave me permission to pick on him a little bit. So like, my name's Jason Smith. My name's Jason Smith, right? It's like number 2 basic as shit compared to John Smith, right? But what is one thing you notice about me when I'm in this room? Right. So
Like Ross.
So just like me being tall, well, Ross is tall too, so he's got 2 things. So like, I would have died to have a name for like as Ross Fangfish. Ross Fangfish. Are you shitting me? No, we think like, how many ideas did we come up with, Ross? How many ideas did we come up with the other day? Yeah. Fangs and fish and sharks, and we were just talking about his kid wanting to do some stuff, and you know he's a little minnow and whatever. I mean, there's stuff you can play with that, right? I mean, Ross is even a pretty uncommon name, really. Vincent Arcuri is a unique name. You can brand that, right? But you can't brand, I mean you can. It's a heck of a lot easier to brand a name, right? Your name. This is a people business. This is a relationship business. The people want to do business with people that they like. But they need to know who you are. So you need to use your name, you need to leverage that. If you got a unique name, use it. If you got some special attribute that I don't, you do, use it. I'm tall, I used it, right? I was told by one of my mentors, Jason, you're a halfway decent looking guy and you're tall. You walk into a room, people notice you. Get in more rooms. It's not that complicated, right? So like, other than the fact I'm tall, what else do you notice about me today?
You're branded. You're branded. Yeah.
You'll never see me not, right? So what are you guys doing every day to take those action steps? And if you're not, what should you be doing? What are you going to start doing today?
Get into more rooms. Focus on being there.
Go out there, meet people all the time, talk to people.
It's like some of you guys have your name tags on, you know. So obviously that's one thing, you know. It's a conversation starter, right? But is that enough? You know what the difference between good and great is? 5%. 5%. Thank you. Right? That's it. 95% of people get it right. 5%. The other 5% is the difference between good and great. So I want you to be thinking every day, what can you be doing to do that extra 5%? Every day. Not just tomorrow. Actually, start today, right? Not just tomorrow. Not, I'm going to wait a couple weeks. I'm going to do something that's kind of unique. No, you need to do it every day. Right? Make sense? So the next time I see y'all in 7-Eleven on the Realtor Rec, I'm going to be like, I know that Ross Fangfish guy. He's got a freaking shark for a logo, and he's biting the shit out of this sale and house or whatever. I don't know, right? That's an awesome name. My poor wife's got Sarah Smith. Basic BIH name as you can get, right? If we were in New York, she'd have to have some Uggs on and whatever.
I'd like to say I know you guys as the Realty Smiths from that brand.
Yes.
So I still know that brand.
Yep. Right. So like if you're not using an individual name, leverage something that you can remember. So like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Obviously you guys have seen the movie. I mean, it's kind of like corny, right? Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We're the Realty Smiths. So like if you don't know what the word Smith means, it's like being a craftsman or like having acumen in the field that you're in, whether it's a blacksmith or a shoesmith. Well, we do real estate, so we're the Realty Smiths. So that's what the meaning is, other than the name, right? So, yeah. All right, so we're going to get a little deep here. Exercise your mental toughness. So I don't know if you guys saw Robert Palmer's post the other day. Hey, lock your rates. Rates are going to go crazy. It's going to get harder than it was, right? I don't think anybody, maybe other than Vince, Elliott, seen Jimmy Carter days. I haven't, right? You guys, yeah. So like,
17% of
right. So these rates aren't bad, are they? Really, in grand scheme of things, they suck, but they don't suck as bad as that, right? The market is between your ears. Does that make sense? The rates don't matter. The guy that ghosted you, that doesn't matter. What your competitor is doing doesn't matter. What are you doing? And how are you being tough every day? Right? We've all gone through things in life that suck. I know Vince and I have gone through some nasty divorces. My ex-wife's a psychopath. His is too, I know, so I can say that. He can say it. I mean, I could send my son to a frickin' Ivy League school for the money I've spent on whatever, right? But guess what? I'm here. I have a 100% success rate of getting through shit. You know, I've lost deals. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars and made poor decisions and been near homeless at times and you name it. It's happened to me. And it's going to happen to you. And you got to push through, right? So, bear with me here. The economy isn't tough, you're not. I'll just read it to you. The economy isn't tough, you're not. Just bear with me here. Interest rates aren't tough, you're not. Losing weight and staying healthy isn't tough, you're not. Your family life isn't tough. You're not. Life and all we encounter isn't tough. You're not. If you're tough in your mind, there's nothing that's going to get in your way, right? As I just said, like, I've gone through massive failure. I've gone through divorces. I've had massive custody battles. Damn near been homeless. I've had really dark times in my life to the point of whether I should be here or not. And you got to be tough. Interest rates don't mean shit. What your competitor is doing doesn't matter, right? You got to be tough. And if you're tough, you're going to get through it, right? The market's going to get crazy. Anybody that's been in this business the last couple of years has had it easy. Who's been licensed over the last 2-3 years? Who's newly licensed? Half the room, well, third of the room, right? Hey, Vince, how was it after the market crash back in the day?
The market was brutal, and we learned different ways to get business. And actually, 2008 was the year that I was the #1 ERA agent in the world at the absolute bottom of the market.
Glad you said that. So when I started, days on market, my market was 120 days. You guys have never seen that. You probably won't ever. 120 days on market average. That means there was times where it took longer than that. That's the average. Yep. Had VA foreclosures up the yin-yang. Like you had to find ways to frickin' grind and just do things that normally you wouldn't do. Right? Right. And when you would drive around this last couple of years, listen to these, when we put signs out. Anybody notice that? When we put for sale signs out? Anybody notice that, Vince?
Yes.
Why?
They were sold before the sign got up. Yeah.
How many signs do you see out now?
Yeah.
How about the builders? How about the builders? How many signs did you see out? Back just 6 months ago, right? You'd go around, you wouldn't see any signs out. Rates go up, things get a little crazy. Now they start marketing. Why are you waiting for it to get bad? That's what we should be doing all the time, right? You're not preparing. If you're preparing, whether the market changes or not, doesn't matter. And if you have a good brand and you've created some authority in your marketplace, the rates go up, things change, you're the guy. You're the person identified. Those of you that have been buying leads, who's bought leads in here? So like when the leads dry up, what happens if you don't have a brand? Right? Leads dry up. Then what? Phone doesn't ring anymore. So you gotta prepare. So I'm gonna obviously know who Kobe Bryant is, right? So I believe in the saying the 7 P's. Anybody know what the 7 P's are? Nobody knows what the 7 P's are? Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Vince and I had almost an oopsie this morning on that, actually. Forgot my USB cord. Luckily, I was early, so I half-assed prepared. So if you want to be a better player, you have to prepare, and prepare some more. So I don't know if you've ever seen any of the quotes from Kobe when, you know, it's like taking the game-winning shot, right? You think that guy's just nervous and oh man, what if I miss, whatever. And to him, it's just another shot because he's taken hundreds of thousands of shots, right? And that's why you practice and you prepare and you're in the gym and you're practicing and you're shooting. So it's just a natural thing, fundamental things, right? So if you do that and you prepare, you know, so it's like myself coming in here today. I've been working on this thing for a few days and just tweaking and whatever and preparing. Obviously, you get nervous about some of these things. And you may bomb it. You could, right? And it's usually because you're not preparing. Whether it's an open house or a listing presentation. You show up and you throw some crap together 20 minutes before your listing presentation. You think you're going to do okay? No. Vince, how much time you spending on a house before you go actually to the listing presentation?
We spend hours preparing.
Right? Or days sometimes, probably, right? Games are won in practice. Listings are won in the preparation, right? Make sense? So I'm going to play a video of one of my favorite guys.
Easy route never pays well. The only route in life that pays well is the hard route. The struggle, the pain, the frustration, and the overcoming of those things. And not only do they pay, they fulfill you as well. Because it shows the people around you. It shows your kids. It shows your brothers, your sisters, your friends, your community, what is possible. And there's nobility in that.
All right, so how many guys do open houses? How often do you do them?
Every chance we can.
Yeah.
Every weekend? Twice a weekend? 3 times a weekend? Anybody? How many calls do you make a day?
That's where I fail.
How many people are you talking to a day? So what I had found, so what I'm about to talk about is in 2014, I received what was called the Rising Star Award with Exit Realty. And at the time, I was only a couple years in the business. Or a few years at that point. I had 45 listings.
Whoa, wow.
I didn't even know what that meant. 45 listings. And people would come up to me at that convention, and other people in my office would come up to me and say, "What are you doing? What are you doing, Jason?" Either you'd get accused you're doing something illegal. You know, everybody's going to have that at some point in their life. Or, you know, there's some magic trick. There's something profound that you're going to learn. And then my answer was, I don't know. I do the same thing every day. I really did not know the answer to that question. Looking back at that time in my life, what it was what's called the Rule of 100. Does anybody know what that is yet? Rule of 100. So this is what people need to start thinking about. Those of you that are new, that are struggling, they're seeing shiny objects, and you're wanting to throw TikToks up, and you're wanting to do these things that everybody else is doing, right? And you're dwindling, you're dabbling, you're not doing enough in a shorter period of time. So what it was that I was doing was what's called the Rule of 100. So 100 days, 100 primary daily actions, and I believe less than 100 days, I made 6 figures at that time. What it was I was doing was, with my branding, I would do, and this applies to anything. This isn't just real estate. Take 100 days. To do this right now, right? Think about this. Take 100 days, go to the gym, and do 100 things every day for 100 days. You think you'd lose weight or build some muscle, change your body structure? You think if you just spent 100 minutes every day for 100 days for every single day, and that's all you did, of content creation, you think you'd have any action out of that? How many people do that today?
My health journey began with 100 naked jumping jacks 15 years ago.
There you go. It takes with one fundamental thing. So, so what about 100 cold calls? I mean, obviously, some of these things people like to do, but what if you did? You made 100 cold calls a day, every day, for 100 days. What if you put 100 signs out every day at an open house every day? What if you spent $100 on an ad spend for whatever, for a listing? Maybe that's not a good example, but an ad spend for something for 100 days in a row. Do you think you'd get any action out of that? It's the compound effect, right? It's like, it's like you see, everybody's New Year's resolutions. Oh, I'm going to go lose weight at the gym, right? And you see them for a couple weeks and they're gone. And they're going in and expecting to see this massive result in a couple, 3 weeks, right? Everybody in this room has done that at one point in time, myself included, right? But if you go for 100 days and you spent 100 minutes every day, you would see some results, right? It goes the other way too. It's like, let's just say you wanted to stop drinking coffee. Would it be wise to just say, hey, I'm stopping to drink coffee tomorrow? What would you do? What would be a better plan?
Drink a little less.
Change my mind.
Maybe you're like a double-double guy. That's what they call up my way. It's 2 creams, 2 sugars. Okay, so how about you go to half a cream and half a sugar, right? And then you go to no sugar, just cream. And then you go to cream, and then your black coffee. And then you go to decaf. And then maybe you go to tea or something, right? It's a compound effect, right? Just like, you're trying to quit smoking or something like that. Some people can, but, if you're a 2-pack a day person, it's weird, not to be totally off-random, but people don't really smoke cigarettes much anymore. They got them vape things now, right? It's always weird to me. It's almost weird to smell like a cigarette smoke, random. It's like, what's going on here? Because everybody switched to it anyway, sorry. Just a weird thing that came to mind. Yeah, I usually smell other things here. So, those of you that are wondering what to do with your businesses, right? Some of you guys are struggling. Some of you are wondering, and I don't care if you're new or have been doing this 30 years. Vince, if I said, Vince, go send direct mail for the next 100 days. Just send 100 of them every day for the next 100 days. Think he'd make any money? I bet you make 6 figures just doing that. Just in his neighborhood. But you got to be committed to do it. You got to do the hard work, right?
The same people? 100 days?
I'm just saying 100 days, that's not getting into technicalities today. So as I was saying, basic shit with the rule of 100. Branding. So do something every day for 100 days. Make one social media post every single day. Spend 100 minutes on it, on content creation, if you just did that, right? That could be one thing.
I just want to make a point right now about what you're about to say. Everybody in this room, I knew Jason, Ellie knew Jason, but nobody in this room knew who Jason was just a few months ago. And now everybody knows who he is. Everybody in LPT knows who he is. He's not from this area. Now everybody knows who he is just from what he's saying right now. All of a sudden he appeared and he's consistent with his marketing. We see his stuff all the time, and now everybody knows who he is. In 5 minutes, top of the mind, and agents that have been here 15 years are not top of the mind. How did that happen? It seems like overnight, but it wasn't overnight. It was with thought and preparation.
Yep. Thank you. I'll clap for myself. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, Vince. So, there's nothing profound in what he's saying, though. So, like, I don't know, those of you that are at the Grand Prix event, you saw me, one day you saw me, I had 100 days, 100K shirt on, and I had this shirt on. Right? You noticed me. I look different than everybody else. Obviously, yes, the whole tall thing works well. So, like, right? But, like, and not to pick on you gals, but, like, obviously you guys get all dialed up and stuff, and you wear your things, and you wear your name tag. But it's kind of hard to differentiate yourself by doing that. Unless you're wearing, like, bold colors all the time. May not be a bad idea. You know who I recognize most today? Ellie. She got a bright blue shirt on, or pink shirt on, excuse me, blouse on. Right? What are you doing every day? So, like, I'm working with a gal, one of my coaching clients up north, and, you know, she's brand new, and we're trying to create a brand for her. Her name isn't cool like Ross's, but, you know, it's not Jason Smith. And, you know, so we're designing this very bold pink sign, very simple but identifiable. So, like, you're gonna see some of my images of some of the things that I've done here in a minute, but, like, if you had this bright, bold pink sign everywhere, and I mean bold, not just like little whatever, like bold, like bang, like biggest sign in town, right? You think he'd notice that? Somebody would notice that? It's that little 5%. It's just the extra things. That's it. Open houses. So, like, I hear this all the time, and people think the problem what's going on here in the last couple of years is, like, oh, you don't even need to do an open house. It's just going to sell itself. I'm not going to put a sign out. Like, Vince, how many open houses you used to do back in the day when you had to?
As many as I could.
How many signs you put out?
Well, back then, even back in the day, we used to do direct mail to promote the open house because we didn't have the convenience of the internet.
Yep. Yeah, you had to find other ways, right? So, like, so one of the things that I had done with open houses, like, I didn't know how to build a business. Like, I'm all right, cool. Got to be a George Washington. I'm going to put my face everywhere. Okay, well, how am I going to do that? I guess I need more signs. Or am I going to put the damn signs? Well, I guess I got to get some listings. Or I got to do open houses for people. You guys are in a great position. You guys are all part of LPT. All you got some listings. And I know some of y'all don't want to do open houses, or you can't. You got other commitments. You're showing houses. Those of you that don't have listings and don't have a business, do an open house for these people. But do it with your stuff. Right? Get your face on the signs. Get your stuff, your content. Don't lean on that person to list it. No. If you're doing the open house for them, they don't care. They're getting paid either way. Right? So I got a funny story when I first started. So back to the whole be George Washington thing. So I had this listing. It's called the St. Lawrence River. Up by where I'm from, it's the river basically separates New York and Canada. And it was one of my first high-end listings. And there's like a main corridor that would be a side road to get in, to get you down by the river to water for home. And I literally put all of 30 to 40 open house signs down that whole road. And then down to all the directionals, whatever. I got a call from a realtor who was, we don't get along anymore. One of my fierce competitors. She wasn't at the time. She called me and she goes, and she kind of gave me shit, like, you know, geez, you're going to piss the neighbors off or whatever. You think you have enough open house signs? And I said, clearly I have just enough. He called me. See what I'm saying? Like, be borderline obnoxious. How many people drive around neighborhoods now, you see open house signs in the corner, right? How many of them have pictures on them? How many of them looks like they bought them from Lowe's that morning and they wrote it with a goddamn marker? Come on. You guys are at LPT, you got unlimited resources, right?
I love the LPT marketing.
Yeah, yeah. And then you can even take it a step further with that stuff, right? So to get into open houses, so like what I learned by that was, how many people actually sell houses from open houses? I mean, I know some people do, but it's not as, it's more about driving buyer traffic, right? That's really what you're doing. You're trying to get buyer leads. But what most importantly that you're doing is showing the neighborhood you're working your ass off. So if you're in that market every single weekend, so if I was any of you that were new, I wouldn't even worry about posting TikToks. I wouldn't worry about anything else. I would find listings in a neighborhood. Any luck at all, there's a neighborhood that's one of these people in here have, it doesn't even have to be in here, the whole LPT company per se. I would drive my ass to Orlando if I had to, if they had 4 listings. Hey, can I do open houses for the next month there? Yep. Yeah, exactly. Go put 30 signs. I know the HOA regs and all that. Whatever. I like to operate on the greater side of black, so you can lean on that a little bit, you know. And just put signs out. Just that thing. Like we're talking, this isn't fancy stuff, right? And if you did that, do you think people would notice?
And I think what he's talking about is you're putting open house signs, not our open house signs, are branded open house signs that are branded to you with your face on the sign. People are seeing your face over and over again. He's not talking about putting our generic LPT signs that we get for free. You got to put some skin in the game, get some custom signs where people are seeing your branding. That's what he's talking about, not putting 100 LPT open signs. You want people to see your branding.
Yep, for sure.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yep, yeah, exactly, yep. But those of you that obviously can't afford that, there is a lot of resources with LPT. That's the point I'm making. Like, most companies won't give you that stuff. You're getting it. Like, really? I wish I would have had all that crap. To go further with that, how many people put the open house signs up the day of the open house, or like the day of, or the day before?
I do, because people will still do.
Cost of doing business. Obviously, I know there's regs on certain things, and I know my market area where I came from, it's a little bit different, so just hear me out, though. I'd put signs out on Wednesday night or Thursday morning. Why would I do that?
So everybody can prepare.
Well, what? So, I mean, the whole neighborhood's going to drive by us. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's 5 days of marketing, right? And then if you do an open house next weekend, they're only off for 3 days.
It's not marketing unless all those open house signs have your name and your head on it.
Bingo. Yep. Yeah, we're not just talking about putting them in front of the house. Who cares? That's actually the least important part. It's all the directionals. How do we get into this neighborhood? I mean, I would put signs out like, I mean, this would be a massive area here. I come from a much rural area, but I mean, I would put signs out like a 2-mile radius. Like any corridor that would take me to that house, I was putting a sign out. If nothing more, somebody saw it. Know how many houses? Actually, my wife knows this story. So, those of you who don't know, my wife is my business partner, and she was an LO for many years, and that's how we met. She could do really crappy credit scores, so, and I didn't like to lose, so that's how I met her. Anyways, a little fun story, but I had a gentleman call me on my directional sign, right? He didn't even call me from a house. He saw my directional sign everywhere, and he called me. Well, how would he get my number? Obviously, it was on the sign, right? Like, put your face, put your phone number, screw the website, right? And just do that. So think about if you're doing that on listings, directional signs. We're not even talking open house signs, so about directional signs. Again, I know, I want to disclaim, there's more regs down here with some of this stuff, but like, for example, I was talking to Fallon about this last night. You have a listing, and let's just say, I don't know, your neighbor around the corner drives by and he works, I don't know, a couple blocks away, right? And so you have your for sale sign in front of the house. There's a road that you got to get into that. Let's just say there's like 3 intersections this guy has to drive by to get to the house. right? He goes home for lunch every day. So he drives by it in the morning, and there's 4 signs, right? For sale sign, directional, directional, directional. With all your name, number, for sale. So that's 4 times. And then he comes back for lunch, he sees it another 4. He leaves again for lunch, he sees it another 4. He comes home for work, he sees another 4. How many times does he see your sign? Think if you had 45 listings like I used to carry. We're just talking signs. We're not talking about anything special here, right? That's what people see daily. You're posting social media on things that, like, unless you're driving traffic to certain things and you have 10,000 followers, who's your audience? Your couple buddies you got? You know, some of you guys are using business pages and you got 300 followers. That's your audience, by the way. I don't know if you recognize that or not. But then you have 3,000 friends. Why are you not putting it on your personal page? In my opinion, business pages are actually garbage. Throw them out. Unless you're driving traffic and you're able to create massive organic leads or lead flow with it, don't throw it out. Use your personal. Again, what did I just say earlier? This is a personal people-to-people business, right? They want to know who Ross Fangfish is. It's a hell of a lot more marketable thing, right? Than, not to pick on you, a St. Pete thing. Picking on you. So again, so obviously the rule of 100, prospecting, farming, social media, whatever, follow-up, whatever it is, right? So like 100 minutes a day on follow-up. I know some people time block for that. But think if you just did that every day. Farming, direct mail. How much direct mail do you still do, Vince?
13,000 pieces a month.
Who else does direct mail in here? So you guys get the idea, right? So like just massive action equals massive results, whatever it is. So this is some of the stuff. So this image of me right here, I dress like that every single day. Every single day. I was known for the guy that had the white watch. That was actually a branded thing. People were like, hey, you changed your watch. I always wore a white watch. Weird, huh? So I made full-size signs. Obviously, I'm tall. I stand above the crowd. That was like this was my time before I knew how to create call to actions and stuff. I wrapped my vehicle. It was even reflective. So this is just me collecting some stuff for being the #1 agent at the time. These were some of my directional signs. Somebody put lipstick on me. Wasn't my shade, but you know. And this was just some early video stuff I was doing, right? So, but that was, you know, at the time I didn't create custom stuff like, but I think I was like an Oakley sign. You guys have access to that stuff. Just my face, you know, just the basics. Most people are using, you know, the generic thing. You're marketing your company, not you. Robert actually doesn't want you to do that. He wants you to market yourself, and he's giving you all the resources to do that. I would have died to have this stuff. Frickin' Vince and I, we got to spend all kinds of money for that stuff. We used to, anyways. Who remembers when they were talking about the new DESI program and all the AI stuff? Who remembers the gal up there that was doing the social media business, and she goes, Robert, you're giving all this stuff for free? You see the oh shit moment she had? That would cost you $2 to $5 grand a month to have that stuff, to do it at that level, right? Not to mention your time. Some more pictures. So this was, you know, this is like a directional sign, reflective. So those were my directional signs. So I was like, that's that extra 5%. Well, up in New York, it gets frickin' dark at like 4:30 at night in the wintertime. We got, you know, people driving home from work. So that was my idea. Well, nobody's going to see this. It's dark out. Let's make them reflective. I used to put solar lights on my reflective signs in front of the houses. Right? You know, these are just examples of just a lot of signs. It's hard to see, I know. You know, we had one of them stupid smart car things. You know, you can't really tell, but there's tons and tons of signs in front of the house. What's that? Actually, they're roomy. Oh, I probably should add those pictures so we could laugh, but yes. Yes, I drove that there. Yeah. That was the company. That wasn't mine, but. And this was my first batch of signs. Back when I first started, bought a bunch of signs. That was when I was about that 45 listings. I had no idea. This is just some direct mail piece. I had a local winery sponsor half it. Basically, I got them to pay for the whole thing. Oop, yeah.
So if you, sorry, this is silly. If you put up all those signs 5 days before, right, are people going to show up to the house expecting this?
So what? Great. Knock on the. I don't give a shit if the seller sells it. Have them call me, right? So what? Yep.
A good way to avoid that is when they get to the house, you could have a sign, one sign that says open house Sunday from 12 to 4.
Yeah, usually your rider is going to tell you when the house is. But yes, people still don't read it and show up. So I mean, and to backtrack a little bit, like obviously you should be putting on the MLS when you're putting the signs out. Like you want to maximize exposure with everything. That's the point of this, right? Don't do things the last minute. Like, go ahead. Yeah.
What about these signs on vehicles or golf carts?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything. So like, again, we're used to winter and lots of snow, so I always drove a truck. So like, I'll back up. That was in my driveway. I put my face on them. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'd pull into a convenience store and like, I would sell houses from people talking to me in a convenience store because I had my car wrapped. That was something I did from early on. And again, reflective, so you could see it. I had hair then. And these big signs, so like, I would put these in prominent places. So like, I would like, if I listed like commercial property that I may know that doesn't, some of that stuff doesn't sell fast. So it's a tough sale. Okay, well great, let's put this big sign out that people are going to drive by it every day. So that's what I did, and there's an image of that here soon. In fact, this next picture of this, I got all kinds of pictures that my friends had sent to me, being obnoxious in front of the sign. So this is in a place called Alexandria Bay. So it's like a very touristy, if you like to have some drinks, that's where you go. And tons and tons of foot traffic. So I had this commercial, it was like an old restaurant. It was an old house converted into like a Swiss restaurant or something. And I'm like, well, I'm going to put these signs out here so people are going to see it, right? So, I just created my own billboards. Now, mind you, again, some of the regs, we were able to do things that I know you can't sometimes do down here. So, some more stuff. So, these are just riders. So, like, obviously you have an achievement, right? Like, tell the world about it. So, I had riders that said I was the #1 agent. At the time, I was top 100 in North America for the company. Then I think the next year I was top 50 or something. This was sponsoring a baseball. This was in a backstop of a baseball stadium. This is the very early stages of creating the team. This gentleman worked for me. Jeff Powell is his name towards the end. This gal here, Jen, she actually runs a really big brokerage now up there. And, more of a call to action. So I started to get into call to action stuff. Northern New York's most aggressive and progressive realty marketing experts. This is an old commercial building. I don't think I ever sold it, honestly, but I got some advertising out of it. I know you can't read these, but these are some of my expired mailers. What's really funny, because you guys are used to really short days on market, I think, let me see if I can read it from here. So it's set, let me see if I can zoom in. Oh yeah, probably still can't read it. So my ad was only 45% of all homes listed sell. Think about that. That was how our market was. Only 45% of all homes listed sold. And I sold 70% of all the houses I listed, which really today that'd be an awful stat, right? But it was basically half of what. So when days on market were 120 days there, mine were 45. So I used that data, right? If you have, when you guys get some success and you get some things that you can brag about them. Talk about them. Leverage that stuff. Make sense? So anyways, so progressing in. So obviously all those little things, as you saw, just an example of all these things that I would do all the time. Just signs, everywhere I could do it. Brand. So who's starting today? Like, you guys gonna start today?
Yeah.
You gotta be a George Washington. So find what you guys can do for yourself that's unique, right? Frickin' Vince was called the head of real estate. How funny is that? Right?
When nobody was bald, it was very effective.
Yeah. But obviously, Vince, he's created quite the brand for himself, right? I mean, he's obviously sold a lot of properties to legit celebrities in the area and stuff, and he's the guy known for that stuff. And he was obviously #1 guy at ERA in a time when the market was tough. He comes from similar backgrounds. He was a janitor. I was a construction worker. I mean, blue collar. Grew up in a double-wide trailer. I didn't have shit. But I had grit and I worked hard. I did the basics. You just got to keep plugging. Hey, put that phone away.
What was that?
The biggest thing that I can't tell you guys enough of is like really the position you're in with LPT, with the resources that you have. Like, do you guys all actually realize how valuable that is? Like, you get a CRM. I mean, I've had to pay for CRMs my entire career. All this AI stuff with all the social media stuff, like all the Power Pack stuff, like those are all things I would have to pay somebody to design them. I'd have to get them printed, postage, and somebody would have to ship them and do, you know what I mean? Like you can't be in a better position right now. You just got to do the work. You know, Ross was just talking about, you know, paying his kid $10 an hour to throw some hangers out. Get your grandkids or get somebody, do something, and just do it every day, right? And the biggest thing, the old school is the new school. In the last couple of years, everybody has forgotten all that stuff. I have too at some point in time. I'm going to get into that here in a minute. What happens is you grow and you start having success and you start doing all these cool things that are shiny objects. You fail to do the fundamentals. You start getting busy, you stop doing open houses as much. Maybe you stop doing the direct mails so much. I know Vince, he's gone through that. You know, you get busy and we're going to cut that back. You know, we're going to stop doing that stuff. You can't ever stop doing the fundamentals. Obviously, Michael Jordan, when he was a talented dude, right? He shot the basketball the same way every time, the fundamentals. He didn't change it every so often, right? It was the same way every time.
We're not plotting against you. And Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball.
Right.
I just read that.
So this is what it progressed into. So all those efforts eventually progressed into a brand that I was fortunate enough to create into some celebrity recommendations and endorsements. So Barbara Corcoran, Shark Tank, endorsed me locally. So like I was a top 1%. We ran the #1 team in our marketplace and did some video content with her in Manhattan. This was actually in Iowa a couple years ago with my son and I shooting some content, just doing some voiceover stuff. Image of us at a zoo doing like a Halloween thing. Kids were dressed up as firemen. These two images, so like the local radio stations recommended me. So on the radio played every day. We had spots, you know, if you're looking to buy or sell. Go ahead, sorry.
How did you connect with her?
Marketing agency. We went through a marketing agency called Rate. So as Vince mentioned earlier, so you guys have heard of Andrew Duncan, the Duncan duo, right? So basically the top teams in the entire nation were part of this market agency at one point in time. So if you go in other markets that are big, a lot of these guys have been or are recommended by some of these same people. So this was just a local classic rock, country music station. So those are all recommendations that we had. So every day it's just like Vince introduced me, right? If I come up and tell you who I am, it's not as impactful if Vince or Nelly or whomever says, hey, this is who this guy is, right? That's the point of a referral, right? You know, if your buddy says, hey, Jim is the guy to hire, right? It's going to be a better handoff than, hey, hire me, I'm great, right? So, you know, we understood how to call that, you know, how to do appropriate call to actions and get third-party validation to build credibility in our marketplace. And I got into billboards and obviously call to actions. Some people have awful opinions of those, but obviously it's a great call to action. Your home sold guaranteed. It was a pretty dead message the last couple of years, but in a market when you had 120 days on market, in times when things are tough, it's a great call to action. And it worked really well for us. So this is actually some Shane Penley direct mail right there. You know, this is just some of the direct mail stuff. I'm not even sure why I put that in there. Oh, I think it's just branded stuff, just like coffee cups, branded, you know. That was just sitting in the office one day. This is a shot of the commercials we've done. So this was like an actual clip from the spot on TV we ran. And then we got into cooler signs. We do like a big pie day thing for Thanksgiving. This is an image of that, just a booth. we got into different call to action, like list with Jason today. How many people see these, and I know half of you guys are doing it or have done it. If you're looking to buy or sell, call me today. It's the worst call to action there is. You're just like everybody else, right? Like Ross could use, if you're looking to land, I don't know, something, the house of your dreams or whatever, like let the big fish do it, whatever. I don't know, something like use call to actions, strong call to actions. Social media stuff. So, these are great. If your business is boring, you're going to go out of business. So why do people use social media? Why do you go on social media? For entertainment, right? Like you go on social media for entertainment. So if somebody just recently got married, somebody just had a baby, Vince has just had another grandkid, right? It gets a lot of likes, it gets a lot of attention. Do you think your just listed house compares, right? Nobody cares about your house you just listed for sale compared to that, right? You're never going to win the war of that, right? But what can you do to compete? Not everybody's funny, but if you can be funny, right? If you can do something unique, like obviously you've seen things like picture for attention or whatever, right? The whole point of it is our attention spans are really short, and you got to draw people in with things that are engaging. Because again, you're not going to win the war of any of those things, but you can do other things to rein people in. So we started doing these funny memes. So we used to have an in-house graphics guy that did all of our stuff, and we just made funny stuff. And like, those things didn't sell houses, but anytime I ran into people, oh man, I love your memes, those are funny. It's mind share, right? I'm in your mind. That's the point. So, if Jim is doing these, and John or whatever, and he's talking to his buddy about real estate, and he sees his memes all the time. Geez, I don't know Jim that well, but man, he does these cool memes, and he just remembered you because of that, right? That's the point. So it's all intertwined. But yeah, these are funny, like Mission Impossible, obviously, and of course he made him look like me. This one actually probably got the most engagement and everything. I like making it easy for people to buy or sell their home. That's all I have to say about that. Obviously, Forrest Gump. Zillow one with like Price is Right. This ain't no Zillow. We make sure the price is right. And then, of course, again, another Forrest Gump thing on Ron. I'm pretty tired. I think I'll sell homes now. To the Star Wars dude in the back, you probably appreciate the one. Obviously that's coming up. May the 4th be with you, right? Look like Harrison Ford. Kind of look like him, actually. And obviously that's the point of you guys doing some of the TikTok video and stuff like that. Like the most engaging things, nobody cares about your market update. Nobody cares about, hey, I'm a realtor. Sorry, Ellie. I know you don't do this, but I'm a realtor and I stand by the code of ethics and I'm going to serve you with whatever. You lost me. You lost me. You lost me at the realtor thing, right? But if you do something engaging or funny, you got to make sure you throw some call to action in it. That's the point. So it's the same idea, right? So, but if you're throwing things out there with no call to action, it doesn't matter.
I would say guys have more advantage because there are more funny stuff for guys, not for girls.
I don't know. Women are pretty funny. You guys look a lot better than us, though. Could leverage that, maybe. So, how many people have been scrutinized by their family about getting into real estate and you're never going to make it, you're not going to amount to shit, go get a real job, you're going to fail.
It's a tough market.
It's a tough market, you're never going to succeed. Jesus, there's so many realtors, why would you ever think about being a realtor, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brené Brown, but one of my favorite quotes is, and I just shared this the other day, if you're not in the arena also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. If you're not in my shoes, I don't care about your judgment. And that goes for everything, right? If you're going through something challenging in your life, you're having financial problems, you're having marriage problems, you're whatever the hell you got going on, right? That's nobody else's opinion matters. And when you're doing some of these things and you're doing some of these unique things, you know, I mean, you're coming up with these funny catchphrases or whatever it may be, or the head of real estate, whatever. Like, I mean, at some point, I mean, you probably somebody like busted your chops about that. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, there's probably been things that's like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? It's like, well, I don't know. I just sold 10 houses from this, so kiss my ass, basically. Right? So, like, whatever you think works for you, make it, just do it. Be you. Go ahead.
Brene Brown, I just shared this with my group. Courage starts with showing up and letting ourselves be seen.
Yep. Yep, for sure. This is a knockoff from Theodore Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena. Anybody know familiar with the Man in the Arena quote? Same idea, basically. If you're not in the trenches, getting bloodied up and marred up and working hard and whatever, like, I don't care about your feedback. So this is actually, I actually have shirts that say this, be you. So I used to chase shiny objects a little bit. I think we all have. You know, when I got into this celebrity endorsement stuff, probably the ego kind of got the best of me at times, and I'm the big fish in the pond, and I was, but it got to my head a little bit. And I would start doing things that weren't true to my identity. You see how I dress? This is about as exciting as it gets. I'll throw a sport coat on every so often. You're never going to see me dressed up like Vince Arcuri, ever. But I used to. And I would maybe try to like speak a certain way or act a certain way. Like, I know we're in Tampa, but anybody in this market that, or anybody in this room that works in like a rural area that used to change tires, right, and their buddies are a bunch of rednecks, and you put a suit and tie the next day, you think they're going to call bullshit on you? Yeah, they are. You know why? Because you're fake. Don't do that. Just like if Vince starts dressing like me. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, you know, like it's just like some of the markets, like we're in Sarasota, like Siesta Key ran them around. Agents wear flip-flops, and that's okay. So you gotta, like, you know, don't stick out like a sore thumb. I come from a very rural market, so an example, be you. So like the Barbara Corcoran, I actually got a lot of shit about that. They thought I sold out. You know, a big New York City, you know, recommendation from this mega star, and I'm like, it's like I forgot my roots. In some ways I did, right? You know what I mean? So like, it's very important to make sure you stick to who you are and be yourself. And if you're yourself, people will see that, and if you're not, they won't. So like, you know, Vince talked about a presentation the other day, and you mentioned it the other day about be careful what you post on social media. So I'm going to bust his chops a little bit on that. Yes. If you're a woman, be careful what you're dressing like on social media. If you're a guy, nobody wants to see your abs all the time. But if you're into fitness and health, guess what? You're going to relate to other people in fitness and health. If you're a woman that likes to get dialed up, you're going to relate to other women that do too, right? If you're a mom and you raise kids and you're whatever, you're going to relate to other moms that raise kids. If you're a great dad and you're whatever you're doing, you're going to relate to those people too. If you're into basketball, you're going to relate to people that play basketball. If you got some strong opinions about things, put them on there. Right? People are like, what do you mean by that? Be who you are. You know, you can PG it a little bit, but be yourself. Make sense? How many people are scared about posting things sometimes? You're worried about what people think. Yep. Whether it's obviously politics is a big thing, right? Like, and there's one thing in sales, you know, religion, sales, and yeah, or yeah, you know what I mean. Basically, yeah. Okay, well, what if you're religious? Are you going to hide away from your faith on social media? Okay.
I know a guy that just goes hard on the political stuff and has not hurt his business at all.
You know why? Because he's going to relate to everybody that's just like him. And he's not going to connect to the people that don't. You know what? He doesn't give a shit. But you know what else happens? People know who he is. And you ain't going to not know who he is. And I'm okay with that. Go ahead.
The only thing that I would add to that, and this is something that didn't occur to me, is as a team leader, your agents may not believe what you believe. Their clients may not believe what they believe. And I am a very strong opinions, and I have been told, you know, I have a client who approached me and said, why would you work for someone like that? Who believes that? That was a little bit hard for me because it never occurred to me before.
Goes back to that quote. Go ahead.
So
I'll get back to that. Go ahead.
I realized lately I was trying to please everyone, right? I wanted everyone to believe in me, everyone to like me. And then I realized that people are not going to change their minds because of something I say that I post. And those people that get offended or don't agree with what I'm posting, they weren't going to call me for my business anyways, right? Because we didn't have that connection. It didn't. So I totally...
So think about this for a minute. All right. So I'm sure there's some people in this room that are strong conservatives. There's probably a few liberals in here too. Maybe not, but let's just say there is. If you're really going to be an asshole about what I post about Donald Trump, do you really think I want to work with you anyways? If that's your determining factor to work with me versus my integrity and my core values and who I am as my person, kick rocks, bro. On to the next. That's my answer to that. And I know that's probably kind of aggressive, but like, that's my opinion. It's just because I've been that guy. And it's like having a hard conversation with somebody that you just don't want to have, but you got to have it. And maybe you're going to tell them something that, just a second, that, you know, they're not going to like. And they don't have to. But oftentimes they respect you more because you're able to have the conversation. Does that make sense? Conflict avoided is conflict multiplied, right? Go ahead.
And the goal of this, and what you're doing, and why we're all here, is to put us in a position where we can make those choices.
Yes, yes. Yeah, you know, when you're first got going, you're really worried about what everybody thinks of you. Who gives a shit? Yes, so you know, I went through a big challenge in that. So back to all this stuff. I'll talk about this. I had the big. There's, for one, in real estate, there's more egos in real estate than any damn industry there is. And I had a big one, but my ego wasn't because I thought I was superior. It was I thought I was inferior. A lot of people don't know that. Do you know that that's actually what an ego is too? When you feel inferior. Anybody know that? So you critique yourself. You think. So some of these things that you do, they're like almost like trying to like fill a void, right? Here's the deal. You're never going to be more of a critic of yourself, right? You're never going to judge yourself more than yourself. So who cares what anybody thinks? I know that's easy to say, but that's it, right? That goes back to the mental toughness thing. Like, you know, or this quote, like, you go through enough hard things, does it really matter? My wife and I have this saying, and it's kind of harsh. At the end of the day, all that matters to me is between who was in my four walls. I mean, if it's my family against yours, I'm choosing mine, right? So at the end of the day, what does it matter? In 100 years, nobody's going to know any of you people. Who gives a shit? Right? So what? You piss one person off. There's a lot of people in this world. It's just like you get a bunch of leads. Like I used to have agents that would work these leads, and they're ghosting me or they're a pain in the ass. So go on to the next one. You got 1,000 of them. You waste and you just suck the life out of these people. Sarah knows what I'm talking about. This agent, like he couldn't, like, if he was here, I'd pick on him. He had a hard time scaling his business because he couldn't like move on to the next thing because like if he had a challenging deal, like he had to like get this settled before he could move on to the next one. Who cares? Let's get to the next one. Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? So if you do all these things, and you brand and whatever, someday you can hire Vincent Arcuri to be your driver.
It's an expensive ride, I bet.
Come up here and see it, Vince. That's right.
Drive, $100 a mile, right?
The most expensive Uber driver.
So
You fit in that car nicely in the back.
I did, yeah. Yep. So I know the screen's small, so if you guys want to scan the QR code for anybody that's not a part of our Realty AF community, please scan it. There's some great value in there. I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm only here to give you value. However, there's a cost of value. So, like, obviously, tap in. If there's something that we can provide value and help you out, that's what we're here and that's what we want to do. So,
Brought me to a template on Canva.
what's that?
Brought me to a Canva template.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
Let me try.
No, it's safe.
Yeah, okay.
What I do is screw it up. All right. Well,
You screwed it up. It's okay.
I guess I didn't follow the 7 P's. All right. Well, I'll populate it on here in a second for you guys to join. So another really neat thing I just want to throw out at you guys. We, as you may or may not know, if you guys saw some of my webinars, so one of our group coaches, his name's Jim Renfro, and he's the #1 ISA in the country. For all those of you guys that know what an ISA is, it's an inside sales agent that basically is, the guy that nurtures leads and follows up and organizes your database and things of that nature. And he was responsible for operating or being behind the scenes on one of the biggest teams in the nation, actually. I think they did like 1,400 transactions last year. He's one of our group experts. He's an expert on Chime, and we have some unique messaging plans that we will be able to create for you. So done for you messaging plans. So a lot of the stuff that's in there, it's good, but it's not great. So that 5% thing, we're able to get you from good to great to basically have a higher conversion rate, not only just with the messaging plans, but with AI as well. So that's going to be something we're beta testing. I just kind of want to let you guys know that that's going to be an offering. And if anybody has any interest in that, obviously, if my QR code would have worked, you could have messaged me. I'll get something up before we leave here today. But we're also going to be doing some group coaching on lead generation in general. So those of you that didn't see the webinar, you can replay it in our group to watch what the content of it is. But basically, it takes all this and allows you to understand what you should be doing. Scripts are bullshit. If anybody uses scripts in here, please get rid of them today, by the way. But it digs deep on that. So that's it.